Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us here on KXAN Live. I'm Will Dupree, coming to you from the KXAN Live studio. We're going to listen in now as Texas Department of Transportation shares their information about how they're preparing for the upcoming winter weather season here in Central Texas. Let's listen in as this begins.
And it's hard to believe that it's been almost a year ago where we were reliving that February storm, the unprecedented storm that hit our region and in our state. And battling that, but that's one that we came through successfully due to our preparation, the flexibility that we have with our staff, and really came through with all of our partners and learned a lot from it, but we're looking forward to this upcoming winter and preparing in the same way to be successful again. And in fact, just last week, our district employees conducted a winter weather exercise where we went through, did all of our material inventories, checked our equipment to make sure it's up and running condition and ready to go, and also refined our plan to be flexible, adaptable, and react to whatever winter weather event we get throughout our entire district. And certainly we hope that we don't see a winter event like we had last year, but we always plan for the worst, and we'll plan to react to that and hope for the best, and hopefully we all come out safe and in one piece next year into the spring season we can turn the page on another winter season successfully. So during the winter events, you'll probably hear us mention several things, and we use the tools that you have to help us out in partnering and getting the message out to our drivers. If there is winter events, the first thing and the most important thing to do is avoid travel if it's at all possible. But if you do need to travel, we want to encourage people to slow down, reduce their speed, leave plenty of distance between themselves and the vehicles around them and in front of them. And in fact, I go back to the last winter's event in February and looking of my role in being out in visiting sections and looking at trouble spots. I spent a lot of time on the roadway, and although it may seem awkward to slow down to 15 or 20 miles an hour on Interstate 35 and our other main roads, that was safe. And the vehicles that were around me were traveling the same speeds that were safe. Now, we did have the occasional vehicle that would speed past us, and hopefully they were able to get to their destination, but I will say that there were a few that would speed past us, and we saw them a mile and a half up the road in the median or off to the side of the road with some minor issues and being stuck in the snow and the ice. So if at all possible, avoid travel, slow down, and take your time, and you will safely get to where you want to go, because we are keeping the roads open and passable for emergency vehicles and others that have to be on the road. Some of the other things that we will use as tools throughout the winter season in getting the message out through you is also putting messages on our electronic message boards about slowing down and just the hazards that you can expect. And also here in the Central Texas area, we use Twitter, and you can find us at TxDOT Austin. But probably the one that gets the most attention and the most traffic is our drivetexas.org website. And I thank you for putting that on your newscast. I know when we get stories, many times I'll see that on your broadcast, and you're promoting that as well. But just to give you an indication of how popular and how successful that was last winter, during the February storm, we had over 3.6 million different sessions on drivetexas.org, and we had almost 97,000 phone calls to the 1-800 number. So people are really hearing that message, planning their trips before they go out, seeing what the road conditions are all across the state, and using that tool. So at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Can you introduce yourself first and tell us your title and your spelling of your name?
Tucker Ferguson. I'm the TxDOT Austin District Engineer. Spelling is TuckerFerguson.
Thank you.
What changes have you made since February?
We've refined a lot of our processes, and last year during that February storm, that was one that extended almost 10 days, which is really unusual in this area. And we were monitoring a lot of our inventory and materials throughout that storm, and we got 3 or 4 days into that. We were getting to a low point. We never ran out of material, I want to be clear. We did not run out of material, but our supplies were being depleted pretty quickly. So we had to make some last minute changes and went to other districts and other areas of state, emergency contracts, started hauling material back into our district for use to get to the end of the storm. And we made some changes this year to make sure we had more sources locally available so we could more readily get those, and also increase our inventory that we have going into the winter storm. Again, that was something that when you look at 8 and 10 days in this area is really unusual. But we've learned from that. We've stocked up on additional materials leading into storms and to have that at our hands. The other thing that we learned from last year is really to be more self-reliant than a lot of times we've done in the past. In Texas, with a state of this size, probably up until last February storm, we've been able to move crews from one district to another because usually it's not a storm that impacts the entire state. Last year, I believe, first time in a long time, maybe if ever, that all 25 districts all across the state were impacted. So we were not able to share resources. We couldn't bring in trucks and materials from other districts, and we couldn't send anybody out because everybody was taking care of their own roads in their home district. And probably lastly, just talking about self-reliance, something that we probably needed to do was to fortify our own facilities even more. With the power outages and the water shortages and things like that, we made some contingency plans to be more sustainable within our own facilities to be able to react to these kind of things.
You define materials.
You mentioned more materials in story. Can you more specifically talk about what materials?
Yeah, the prime materials we use are salt brine, or a liquid solution that we apply usually before the storm to prevent the ice and snow from freezing to the roadway. And then throughout the storm, we will continue to use that salt brine, but in addition to some granular magnesium chloride, which is more of a melting agent if the snow does begin to stick. And you can see many, many bags around you of the magnesium chloride that we would use. And in the distance, we have some of our salt brine storage tanks. So just to give you some kind of an idea, last season, district-wide, we used about 99,000 gallons of brine. This year, we are prepared and we'll have on hand about 144,000 gallons of brine. The magnesium chloride, we used about 427 tons. This year, we'll have on hand about 1,200 tons. And the equipment that we used last season was about 206 pieces of equipment, and we'll be ready with at least that many to go this year, plus some additional ones if we need to bring those on. And this is the type of material that does not expire. If it's not used this year, we can use it in future years, and we can be a resource for our partner districts across the state if they need help and we're moving a piece of equipment and materials around different locations.
Could you elaborate on the additional pieces of equipment?
One of the things that we did employ last year is motor graders to remove snow from the roadway. A lot of times you will see in northern states or even the northern part of the state of Texas more prominently snow plows, but we don't have any snow plows in our fleet, and we did consider purchasing snow plows, but really when you think about it, a snow plow or the attachment of a snow plow is a one-use piece of equipment, and it's so seldomly used here in the Austin district that it really didn't make sense to make an investment in snow plows. But the motor graders that you see right here perform the same function. These motor graders are year-round pieces of equipment. They're used in our summer program, our spring program for spreading material, asphalt, grading of soil and grades. Plus, they also double as great snow removal equipment. We'll have 16 of these ready to go to deploy anywhere in the district that will need them all across our 11 counties. Last year, we had about 11 or 12 of them deployed at one time or another, and we're making sure all of them in our fleet in all of our counties will be ready to go for this year.
What sort of access will cities and counties and other entities have to not only the machinery resources, but the other, brine and liquid resources?
Basically, we are responsible for the state roadways. Cities and counties are responsible for the city streets. But in an event like last year, we do call upon each other to hit some hot spots. And I took several phone calls from county judges, city officials saying that there were critical locations, hospitals, for example, power grid and power electrical stations that needed critical access. So if those threat of life and safety type of situations do occur, we certainly will partner with the cities and counties and treat those hot spots to get fuel or access to hospitals and ambulance services if necessary.
Did you have any problems getting to your materials where you had them stockpiled, or are you thinking of spreading them out more?
Basically, all of the materials are stockpiled at our county in our maintenance section locations, so we really didn't have trouble getting to those. The difficulty came as locating the additional sources that we needed. As we were depleting those sources, we had to travel quite a long distance in some case, but our vendors were responsive. We were able to get the material back here and use it throughout the storm.
What is the corrosive effect of this material on people's cars if they should be concerned about that?
The brine is a salt solution, and the magnesium chloride is also a sodium type of a solution. So there may be some corrosive type of nature, but the frequency at which we use it is so low that it shouldn't cause any major damage or long-term damage. I mean, this is not like a northern state where it's frequently 1, 2, 3 times a week where it may cause some of those corrosive issues. But I will say, after a snowstorm or after an ice storm, dirt and debris and things like that do accumulate on vehicles. So I would encourage, after the storm is over, to watch your vehicle all around, undercarriage, everything, just to make sure you get those these chemicals cleaned off.
Did you have to pull any of these new machinery or new resources from other TxDOT districts here in the state, or is this something that you were able to acquire through other states or other entities outside of Texas?
All of the equipment and the materials are within our state that we've acquired for this year.
From what I remember, portions of roads and freeways were shut down. Do you feel like we're prepared to be more proactive in clearing the roads with your crew instead of shutting down? If it was a magnitude event like we had last year, we're happy.
Sure. The shutting down of roads is a decision that's usually made by law enforcement, and if you picture what roadways were shut down, the majority of them, if not all of them, were the large bridges and overpasses, and obviously we know bridges freeze first. We see the signs, and it's because the air presence on top and on the bottom, it's just cooling. But if those overpasses and bridges do get shut down, the routes were still open because we had the frontage roads and on the ground types of roadways. So no roadway was completely shut down without access to it on the frontage road system. But if those bridges do shut down, that decision would be made with law enforcement, and we'd make a joint decision with them on that.
With some weather models already showing winter weather in the forecast for next week, possibly on Thanksgiving Day, are y'all prepared to move crews out and get them involved?
We are. We're ready right now. It seems to never fail that storms hit on holidays and weekends, so we're ready for that. And once we're deployed and fully deployed, we will run around the clock, 24-hour, multiple shifts around the clock. Usually give one shift, a 12 or 13-hour shift, and flip-flop back and forth. But once we start and we pre-treat and really get into the storm and our de-icing, we'll be around the clock until the event is over.
What about staffing? Do you have additional staffing?
We have about, like I said, 206 pieces of equipment, but we had about almost 300 staff, which is over half of our entire district in our maintenance sections and our district office to deploy. So they're spread out in all 11 of our counties and our maintenance sections, and we have enough to run all of our pieces of equipment around the clock on those dual shifts that I just mentioned.
But did you hire additional staffing for this coming season?
Not additional staffing, we're just filling the spots that we have.
I apologize if you mentioned this. I'm curious how you came up with the number of additional materials, equipment. Did you look at other cities that experienced winter storms like we had, or how did you come up with what you needed, I guess?
The materials was based on what we used last year, and we wanted to multiply that to have plenty of materials on hand for this year. Again, this is material that doesn't expire, doesn't have a shelf life. We can use it in future years if we don't use it this year, and we can help out our neighboring districts if they need it. As far as the pieces of equipment goes, the 16 motor graders that I mentioned are pieces that are in our regular summertime and springtime construction and maintenance fleet. So we are just converting them over with with special snow cutting and snow removal tips on the blades that are more conducive to doing that. So I guess that's another change that we did learn from last year. They're special cutting blades and cutting and tips on the blades that we will outfit these motor graders with to make them more efficient if we do need to use them on the roadways.
Before February storm, when did you normally start planning for the winter?
Winter
preparation?
Winter preparation is a year-round event. So once the winter ends, we typically do an after-action review on everything that happened over that winter, see what lessons we've learned and what adjustments we may need to make to contracts for materials and those types of things. But then when you get into the summer season, that's when we start ordering materials to make sure we get our inventory in. And winter is not only in the winter season, but it's almost a year-round event.
So did you end up ordering more stuff for this winter as a result of February?
As a result of what we learned last year, like I said, we used about 427 tons of this magnesium chloride that you see here in the bags. And this season we'll have 1,200 tons on hand all throughout the 11 counties in our district.
Just to clarify, with the motor grader situation, so you said last year you had 11 to 12, from what I understand, that were equipped with the snow tips, but this year you'll have 16 equipped.
Last year we had 11 or 12 that were not equipped with the snow tips. So they had the blade on the bottom, so it still removed the snow, but those are at the bottom of at the board is a special snow removal tip that we will retrofit all of these. We have 16, and we have 16 in our entire fleet across the district. All of those will be prepped for winter, ready to go, maintained, and ready to be deployed if we need it for the winter season.
Are you able to put a dollar amount on how much you've all have spent to prepare for this year round versus February?
No, I can't. I don't have that off the top of my head. Sorry, but we can get that for you.
I know a lot of the issue in February, or some of the issue from what I understand, was in order for the roads to be treated, they need to be dry. So once you had continuing snow and ice, you had to kind of cut through all that to be able to back down to the road surface. Is there any way to prepare for that or remedy that moving forward?
Yeah, there's a couple different cycles for snow removal, and we talk about the pre-treatment where we will spray the salt water or the brine on the roadway, and that can be done a couple of days ahead of a storm. So we're watching forecast all the time, and if we see something coming in, it's going to be a few days out, and the prediction of the type of precipitation makes a difference as well. If it's coming in as an all-rain event, if we pre-treat, it may not be useful because that may be washed away. But if it's going to start as freezing rain or snow or sleet, we put the pre-treatment material on the roadway, and even if that dries up a couple of days ahead of time, it's still okay because that residue is on the roadway. And you may sometimes see the white lines, the white salt lines on the roadway. What that does is prevents the snow or the sleet or the freezing rain from bonding to the pavement. As you can imagine, just like if you get it on your sidewalk, if it's not bonded, even if there's a layer of snow or ice, it can be easily scraped away with a shovel or with a broom. Once that bonds to the pavement and gets down into those voids, it's very difficult to cut it off with the plow blades or with the grader blades. And that's where we will use the granular material to melt down through that to help us break that up a little bit so we can wipe it away. So there's various stages of snow removal, of activities and preventions for the bonding, and we employ every one of those depending on the storm. All storms are different, and based on what's coming in as, we'll may change our plan going forward on how we pre-treat or post-treat.
You know, people just take for granted that they're going to be able to get on the roadways and drive, but you guys kind of have to have a miracle ball to look in the future to be able to prepare ahead of time. What is your message to viewers that are just, expecting you guys to be out there the next time something like this happens and be able to drive on the roadways?
Well, we will be out there, but our message is we encourage them if they have to drive, right? The first message is please don't be on the roadway and put yourself in harm's way if you don't have to. But if you are, we're treating the roads around the clock, and they may not be clear of snow and ice. There may be some residue, but our mission is to make them passable and safe. So reduce your speeds, plan ahead, look at the things we have on TxDOT, drivetexas.org. Even the Waze and Google Maps and all of those different kind of resources can provide information on where traffic is flowing, where it is slow, and really try to avoid those areas. And I failed to mention, I want to introduce Sarah Berryhill. I forgot to do that, Sarah. She is the manager of our drivetexas.org program and has a really good statewide perspective on how many hits and how many sessions was done last year. And I mentioned about 3.6 million during the winter storm in February. So she oversees all of that, and it's a great resource that all of you help get that message out there when you do your stories on it.
When you apply the brine and different granular materials, how long does it last?
It depends. Depends on the precipitation that comes. If we get very little precipitation, it could leave a residual on there for the next storm, possibly, especially if it dries and that residual can stay. But if we do get a lot of rain or freezing rain or snow, and we're coming through with the graders and pushing that off, it would need to be reapplied throughout the storm and prior to the next storm. So it really does depend on the intensity and the amount of precipitation and the type of precipitation that we get. Actually, traffic working the material can help. It can keep the pavements a little bit warmer and work it down into the voids in the pavement to help prevent that bonding to the pavement. But again, in order for that to be effective, we still want people to slow down and not travel if it's not necessary.
All right, we're going to give y'all an opportunity. We've got our equipment. We're actually going to let the brine truck go so y'all can get video of it actually spraying. And then we'll have opportunity for you to also get video of the brine tank.
Thanks for sticking with us here for our live stream. I'm Will Dupree in the KXAN live studio. Still, we're wrapping up a news conference now, and our camera will be moving as our crews there are getting some pretty interesting video that we don't normally get to show you all, and that includes some of the winter weather preparations and treatment options that the Texas Department of Transportation uses to deal with winter weather. Of note of what they said earlier is that there are more materials and equipment available to TxDOT crews to deal with any potential winter weather. The storm back in February that we all experienced and don't wish to happen again served as a big learning lesson for TxDOT and identifying some of the things that they would like to do differently to potentially head off another storm that we might get. Hopefully we never get that, but at least they're going to be more prepared for it. So what they were saying is that there is more gallons of this salt brine, which is used to kind of pre-treat roads and potentially stop ice and snow from really sticking and building up on roads, and it keeps the roads a little bit better cleared. They also have this magnesium chloride, which is also used to treat roads and melt snow and ice. And they have more of that on hand for this upcoming winter weather season. Of note, we had long reported there are no snow plows that you might see in some of the northern states or states that deal with much more snowfall. We still do not have any snow plows here, but there are having that these pieces of equipment are called motor graders. Another attachment that kind of has a plow built into it. It has multi-purposes besides what is offered and expected to be used during the winter season, but they are using this now with an attachment that can break up snow that is impacted on roads as well as ice to try to better treat the roads in case there is some sort of weather event. These things are being shown off right now for all of you, and I will let you know that our reporter, Daniel Marin, he is there at the event. You may have heard him asking some questions of the district engineer for the TxDOT office here in the Austin area. He is working on a story about this to kind of show off the equipment, the video as well, so you can tune in tonight on KXAN.com. I also want to share with you all a story that's on our website right now, and it's really looking at what this winter weather season could bring. As I bring up our website now over on KXAN.com on the home page, the main story right here is La Nina returns, and it asks the question and then looks into, could historic Texas freeze happen again? Our weather team just worked on this and put that up, so if you're wondering about that, if you have expectations and would like to find out more about what we are looking forward to or expecting for winter weather, our team has you covered there. So I'll ask you to head over to our website to find more information about that. Thanks again for watching here on KXAN Live. I'm Will Dupree coming to you from the KXAN Live studio. We'll see you back here another time, everybody. Please stay safe and healthy out there. Take care.